This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
When people come on as guests, a lot of people think that. Well, who cares what I say? It's like, well, it depends on what you say.
No, it's true. And it's, you know, you're bringing me on a business-focused podcast in theory, right?
Yeah.
You're bringing on a guy that's not an entrepreneur, no real interest in building a business, and has been, for better or worse, middle management grunt work his whole life. So I'm kind of the exact opposite of your target audience.
No, honestly, my target audience is everybody.
Right.
So there's plenty of people out there that are in the same situation as you.
Majority, I would say.
Yeah,
But the minority of your podcast guests and the people you try to bring on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The common thread of people that I've had on are just people I like.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And so I've had a couple people on who are, wealthy or business type guys, but those podcasts generally don't go into that very much. So I'm actually trying to go into the business side a little bit more because I get feedback that people actually like that a lot when they listen to my podcast. So. Well,
right. When you talked about podcasting and spent that funny amount of money on
my original
office studio that is non-existent.
I think I have all that stuff sold, by the way, but yeah.
That's good. This was probably a better investment to just do it here anyway.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I just pay a fee basically.
But initially, yeah, you wanted to do your President McCormack Business Podcast. You wanted to do a separate sports one.
I did.
You wanted to do one to bring just people you thought would be entertaining on. Mm-hmm. So I guess you kind of melded it into all one kind of.
Yeah, I don't talk too much sports. I did one sports episode actually with Nick.
Yeah, we were talking about fantasy football before I came.
Oh, right. Yeah.
How you immediately crapped on my Breece Hall draft.
I did. My problem with that though, right? I don't like the Jets.
No, and that's fine.
I think I actually don't know much about him, but he's on the Jets. So I'm like.
Yeah, the Jets. I think Vegas has him favored to win the division, which is insane.
Are you serious? Who's their division?
It's them or the Bills. It's them, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Patriots.
Not a chance.
And I think their over-under is like 10.5.
Under. I'll take it.
You'll take it?
Yes.
All right. Well,
they've got two rookie offensive linemen that are unproven. They got Aaron Rodgers, who I think this might be a hot take. I think he's fragile.
He's very well could be washed, and he's possibly nuts.
Here's the thing, like let's go with Aaron Rodgers this year, 15th best-ish.
Oh,
quarterback.
You're high.
Think 20? I'm high? Well, if he's 20, then there's no way in hell.
Sorry, you're low. I think he's like 20. I would think
20th best.
Yeah, you think who would you want to quarterback your team? How far down are you getting before you get to Aaron Rodgers?
Well, that's what I mean, right? That's what I'm saying. I think he's like mid, like 15 deep, 15, 16, something like that. But if you think I'm not going to argue at 20 deep. You think there's 19 better quarterbacks than him?
I mean, if you wanted to go through them all, that's something I'm not ready to do. But I think
for the point I'm making.
I think you're right in that area. I think you're in that 18 to 20 area.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Patriots are completely rebuilding.
9.5, by the way, is the current over under. And I think the Bills are 10.5, so they're not favored for the division, but they're right there.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, over the Bills in freaking Miami. That blows my mind. They don't even have close to the weapons Miami does. I think Miami wins that division.
I think that the Bills have been, they've won 3 straight. I think
divisions.
Yeah. Then whatever. They lost their top receiver.
I think they lost 2 linemen too.
But the old adage that the Patriots just ran by, right? They have the best quarterback in the division. Whether you like him or not, it's whatever.
Yeah, but how much better is he than Tua?
A lot.
You think?
I think so.
I guess we'll see.
I think he's like a top 3 guy.
I think that he's
got the arm talent. He runs, he bulldozes guys. He makes bad decisions.
Yeah.
He's what's the old Brett Favre gunslinger?
Yeah.
He's 100%
I kind of like that though, because I want my quarterback to throw an interception a game. Because if he's not throwing an interception, he's not trying to get it in where it needs to go.
Agree.
He's not aggressive enough, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't know. This year was weird for me. So we just did our fantasy drafts. I did end up doing 3 this year. So I've eliminated. I'm down from 5 to 3. I'm proud of myself. That's good. I tried to wiggle out of the third one, but it was the We Are the They one. So.
Oh. Well, you just need to win that one then, right?
Yeah, I win that one almost every year, so that one's easy. But as I'm looking over the quarterbacks, I'm like, I don't see a massive difference between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. I don't see a massive difference between Jared Goff and Jared Allen. I mean, I would give it to Allen, right? But you're talking like 3-4 points a game, maybe?
I think on a fantasy perspective, I think you're talking more just because Josh Allen's going to run. He's going to rush for touchdowns a lot more, generally.
But not more than Lamar.
No, not more than Lamar, but way more than Goff. And
he'll run more than Goff, but not more than Mahomes. You know what I mean? I don't know. The top 8 almost seem interchangeable to me.
I think 8's a little high. I think you got a top 4 with a couple of rookies. Who knows?
Yeah, the rookies are always fun.
So I put a big bet on Jaden Daniels. We'll see how that turns out.
Did you get him in a league?
I did, and I paid like $30 for him. I was going to
say, yeah, someone was. Dude, I put him up way too early because I wanted him. I have him in both the other leagues.
Okay, so yeah, he was my guy I wanted coming in, and
I broke my rules for him though. He's on a shit team, and I normally never take guys on bad teams.
He is, but he's on a team that's got a. It's one of those things, right? Like they're gonna score some points.
So, yeah, someone's got to score them, right?
Someone has to score some points, and they're not gonna lose 14 games because they play the Giants twice.
Right, right.
That's
yeah. See, what do you think about Dak? I guess we'll talk sports today. Dak.
Oh, we can switch off later if we need to. That's fine. I have such mixed feelings about him. So I had him for the bulk of last year, and about halfway through, I traded him for Joe Burrow, who promptly hurt his wrist and didn't play again. And Dak was, from the point I traded him until the fantasy playoffs started, was the number 1 fantasy quarterback and player. Mm-hmm. And I was kicking myself. And then he crapped the bed in round 1 of the playoffs, and the guy that had him lost immediately.
No, I think you said this the other day at the office, and that is the exact problem with him. It's like he's a monster in points, but then he doesn't get anyone to the end. Even the Cowboys, they can't even freaking win a playoff game with him.
No, it's the same thing. Yeah, he's good for 9-10 wins. He'll get you to the playoffs, and then the bright lights come on, and
I guess
he makes weird decisions.
Dude, what do you think about Ezekiel Elliott going back to the Dallas Mavericks? Cowboys?
He might as well go to the Mavericks. That's
was he a no-touch guy for you?
He was a no-touch. The fact the Cowboys' running game, which is usually really solid, right, was so stay away from me this year because it's like, I mean, Elliott had an okay year with the Patriots, I guess, but he was by far second fiddle to Stevenson until he got hurt. Yeah. Did he get hurt? I don't even remember if he got hurt. And then you bring him back as your main guy. It's like running backs burn out so quick in the NFL.
Well, he's been burnt out for freaking 4 years.
Well, yeah, I think they got rid of him, so they obviously thought that Pollard was going to pass him up, and then they didn't want to pay Pollard, and I don't even know who they have now. I mean,
it's Ezekiel. I think it's
Elliott,
a
like
rook.
Rico Dowdle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. That face you just made.
Like, I don't know what team he is on. Is he a rookie?
I think he's been a Cowboy. I think he's just been like a third stringer or something.
Oh, okay.
Good clubhouse guy.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, he's good in the locker room.
Yeah, so
very motivating.
I'm all out on the Cowboys. I think CeeDee Lamb's like the number 1 receiver going, and it's like, okay.
Dude, I mean, Skyler loves him, dude, and
he does, and can't touch he'll get his points, and they're going to be playing. Their defense is pretty good. If they're not playing from behind, Lamb's not doing much. Mm-mm. So,
not at all.
But America's team. I hope they lose. So.
Well, don't worry, they haven't won for a long, long, long time.
That is very true.
Who are you picking to win it all?
Oh, I gotta go with the Lions, but
okay.
I've never got to cheer for a good football team. The thing that's funny about that is I don't disagree
with you.
Right, so I've never got to cheer for a good football team since early 90s or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Which was, for the record, friends all bugged me to pick a football team. I don't want to jump on the Broncos or Niners because it's like that's everyone around here. And I was like, I really like Barry Sanders. I guess I'm a Lions fan.
There you go.
And then I'm so stubborn that it's been 25 years of, well, I guess I'm a Lions fan.
Dude, I didn't like the Nuggets and I didn't like the 49ers growing up either. I didn't really watch much NFL, if I'm being honest. My parents, my dad's Scottish, right? So he's not really into football. Still not. He never, when I played, he liked it, but like we weren't really a football family, right? And so when I went on my mission, I saw Tom Brady play for the first time, right? So like 2000, right? And I was like, oh, this is my dude. I like this guy, and then I literally just followed him through his whole career pretty easy. And now I'm a Raiders fan because I bought Raiders tickets, and they're the hardest team to love. It makes sense, though, right? You have their tickets. You can go to the games. Right, yeah. That was the point. You kind of have to be their fan of their team. Yeah. Well, that first year, dude, it was like freaking, you got John Gruden as the coach, which I think is garbage. Then you got Mark Davis, the team owner, who, what the hell? It's like having like a version of Donald Sterling. It's just like, I can't stand this. Their number 1 overall pick kills 3 people in a car. Their best defensive player bounces. Another guy gets arrested. It was just like, this is a dumpster fire of a freaking team. Well, doesn't they pour all their money into a quarterback that's... Like Garoppolo? No, it was Carr. Oh, yeah, Carr. They pour all their money into a Carr who, as the kids say, is mid at best. Oh, for sure. So he's serviceable. Like, he's not going to... If he plays good, he won't lose you a game, but... if you're down 10 with 6 minutes left, how do you feel? Yeah. I'll be honest, I could be completely wrong on this because he's a rook, but like I was kind of mad at the Raiders for not picking up freaking Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is a solid quarterback. I think he's a Jared Allen. So he's got an injury. Or is it Josh Allen? Right? What the hell is it? It's Josh Allen. Josh Allen. You want to say Jared Allen? Jared Allen was a linebacker for the Vikings. That's right. Yeah. I think he speared Johnny Knoxville in some Jackass movies. That's true. Yeah, you got an injury history with Bo Nix, though, right? Yeah. A little bit. But it's the NFL, though, dude. It's really, really hard to bang a quarterback in the NFL. It is, but it's also, there's I think the comparison I heard was NBA player Brandon Roy. You remember him? Oh, yeah. All the talent in the world, terrible knees. Yeah. And so just never worked out. That's the Bo Nix thing? Not potentially. Yeah. But you also get these guys that are, do you worry about that? And it turns out they're fine. Yeah. So I think he's got potential to be pretty good. I would have drafted him over Caleb Williams. Oh, hell yeah. I don't understand the Caleb Williams thing. What, going 5-5 and crying after every loss? That's not a franchise number 1 overall pick for you? Because they were a Pac-12 team, I watched more USC games than I would normal college football teams. Yeah. You ask me questions about like SEC quarterbacks. It's like, sure, I've heard of him, whatever. I watched enough Caleb Williams games where it's just like, look, the guy's got talent. He's quick. He's got a good arm. He can make some highlight plays. He just doesn't seem like he's a winner. No. To me. And I might be completely wrong on that, but you look at some guys like that and you draft him and you're just like, hey, this guy just doesn't want to be here. Yeah. Exactly. Which is Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence doesn't look like he enjoys playing football. Dude, I actually have no idea. Have you ever watched him be interviewed or anything like that? I haven't too much. I just think he was really good at it. I think he's a smart guy. He knows how to read a defense. He can do all the things you need to do. He just doesn't seem to like it as much as some guys. Yeah. It's kind of like Andrew Luck. Like, you could tell he loved it. Still retired early because of the brain stuff and everything, right? But he's a guy that loved football. Same with Tom Brady. Well, so that's the thing, right? Tom Brady is not to piss off certain people we know that could possibly listen to this, but it's the Jordan argument, right? It's the mentality. Yeah. It's the eat, sleep, live, I have to beat you mentality. Yeah. And I think Caleb Williams has hey, this is a good way to make a lot of money. It's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so... I've got him coming up as biggest bust of all time. Top 3, I would take a bet on top 3. Top 3 of all time is pretty... Ryan Leaf, DeMarcus Russell, Caleb Williams. Yeah, we're there. Todd Marinovich. Getting old there. I don't know what that is. Well, you'll have to look him up later. Huge bust. I think the problem though, too, did he make money though?
I don't even think he made money. This like he was in like the 90s.
Yeah.
He was the guy, his dad, if I remember right, his dad like coached him up, made him left-handed because it was more advantageous.
Yeah.
All this stuff. And then the dude like flamed out. And I think he had like a drug habit and there was probably cocaine involved. I don't know.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, because Jamarcus Russell made his money. I think he made 60 to 90 million.
He did. Leaf did fine too, I'm sure.
Did Leaf too? I can't remember. He was so long ago.
He's like a freaking motivational speaker now and stuff too.
Yeah. His was drugs.
Part of it, yeah. And just managed expectations. I mean,
yeah.
These guys though, these rookies, they get thrown into a situation that's always like,
I'm telling you, dude.
Can you imagine being 18 years old? Like not trying to shift off sports, but like being 18 years old and your dad's just like, here, you're president of this company. Good luck.
Right. Right. It's crazy.
It's nuts to put that kind of pressure on someone that young without learning any sort of ropes. Yeah. I guess in your case, you would have been like 15, but.
Right. Right.
But it would have been like, hey, yeah, you can kind of think here a little bit now. Let's go.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the scenario you want to be in, right, is you want to get drafted behind a fantastic quarterback, ride that pine for 3 years, learn the game really, really well, and then get forced into one of these big ass contracts. Like Trevor Lawrence just signed like a $260 million contract. Who else did they re-up this year? There's a couple quarterbacks that got.
Well, Jordan Love got the biggest contract of all time after starting 1 year.
Yeah.
And then Goff got paid again, which is...
See, Jordan Love is perfect. Right? Well, Jordan Love is perfect because he went behind Aaron Rodgers for 2 years. Played for 1, right? And then now he got his contract,
which is the same thing Aaron Rodgers did behind Favre, which was sat a couple of years, got a shot, moved on. So that's just kind of their system. But.
Even Patrick Mahomes was behind somebody. Even freaking Tom Brady was behind what's his nuts
Mahomes
for a minute.
played 1 year behind Alex Smith, right? And I mean, I guess that's ideal. I just
think day one, look at Goff, destroyed, right? Caleb Williams is going to get destroyed. Right, most of these guys get destroyed their first year. Alex Smith is the exception to the rule. He got destroyed for 5 years. But
so Goff made a Super Bowl in his second or third year.
Could have been.
I don't think it was his rookie year.
No, it wasn't his rookie year. It might have been.
I think it was second or third. They lost that Super Bowl to the Patriots, the most boring Super Bowl of all time.
The 9-6 game
like
or something.
10-3 or something, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
It was. I just remember like.
Hey, we got the win, baby. That's all I care about.
I don't know who we is, but.
Oh, yeah. 5. I think it was like 9-6. I think it was like, seriously, it was like 3 or 5 field goals.
Yeah, it was awful. And I didn't get to watch many Super Bowls. So the job I had previous to ADP required work every Super Bowl Sunday. So I tried to sneak out to catch like the end of the game.
Did you? Yeah.
And so I remember I got to watch that one, and I was just like, "This is what I've been missing." Like, okay.
Well, let's talk about that for a second for kind of fun. So you used to work at Pizza Hut, right? You used to manage a couple of Pizza Huts.
I did. I managed pizza. So I worked for Pizza Hut for what? So I went. Let me think about this. I went 8 years. Took another job for a 3-year gap, and then went back for another 9.
Was that at Mountain Mike's?
I did work at Mountain Mike's, and I worked at Fazoli's.
Oh, yeah,
Fazoli's. So I did restaurant stuff for 20 years.
Yeah.
And
so on the Super Bowls, though, most people must order before the game, though, right? So by the end of the game, does it slow down?
So it's like through halftime.
Okay, through halftime.
It's through halftime. And then the Super Bowl is like, there's like 5 days of pizza, whatever you want to call it, right? Yeah. So you get Super Bowl Sunday at the start of the year. You get Halloween, you get not the 4th of July. You get New Year's Eve is nuts, Christmas Eve, and then the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Are just these massive days where they're just like, hey, and it is part of the problem with working for a big corporation, right? It's like, hey, we know you all have families, but we kind of don't care. You have to be here.
Yeah.
And it's like, just, it's one of the things I don't miss definitely about working there. My wife still works for Pizza Hut, and so it's still something I deal with.
Yeah.
And I feel a little guilty every single holiday.
Well, you've earned it.
I guess, but so is she. That's the problem. And, she still has to deal with it. But yeah. So Super Bowl Sunday, it's like you come in, you try to get everything ready. Pre-game starts at like noon, whatever.
Yeah.
So then about an hour before kickoff, Pizza Hut would always buy the commercial right before kickoff as well. So you get your stupid Jessica Simpson Muppets commercial.
Right.
Or Queen Latifah doing nothing. I think they have Lil Jon now.
Oh, do they?
So they're always about 4 years behind what's cool.
Yeah.
With the exception of the Muppets, they're eternal, right?
Oh, sure.
Sure, why not?
I never liked the Muppets all that much.
No?
No.
Oh.
So you're not talking to the
I'm not talking to the right guy. They made one really good movie with that Jason Segel, but it was like his life's passion project. And it's pretty good.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you to watch it or anything. Jason Segel's a guy I like a lot too.
Oh, okay.
I think he's funny. So anyway, you'd ramp up, you'd get ready, and then you would just do this massive amount of business from like 3 to 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then you'd get a second wave at halftime, and then it would just tank the rest of the night, unless the 49ers, the Seahawks, or the Broncos were around and won. Because for whatever reason, I think those are the 3 most popular teams around here that were good. And if those guys win, you would see another bump after because you got people celebrating. I don't know how the Seahawks snuck in there, but at some point they did. Mm-hmm. And they're big around here.
Yeah. Yeah, they are big around here, which is weird.
It's kind of weird. So my whole extended family is from that area.
Okay.
And so to see that kind of leak down here was like, keep your team out of here. To me.
Go back to where you came from.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not big on this. But then, they were good for long enough. They had some good seasons. They lost the Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl. They lost one. And people latch on to winners anyway, right?
No, they do. Yeah.
Some people, psychos like me don't, but.
Well, that's why I like to give Skylar so much crap, and you a little bit because you're a Cubs fan, right? So, what did it take 104 years for the Cubs to win?
It was 108.
108 years for the Cubs to win.
And
were you working for me when that
No,
happened?
I wasn't. That was
16.
It
was before that.
Yeah, it was 2016.
Yeah.
The taking apart family stuff, maybe one of the greatest nights of my life, which says way more about me than it should. But I was watching it with my family. So my dad grew up in Iowa, was a Cubs fan.
Oh, okay.
For the Iowa Cubs and just living in the area. And he just kind of kept following them. So then, I remember being in elementary school, get home from school, and the Cubs played day games. And everyone had WGN.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to follow baseball, you liked the Cubs, or at 5:05, you could watch the Braves on TBS.
Yeah.
And my dad was a Cubs fan, so I was a Cubs fan. And, it's just kind of carried on. But I remember watching like the 89 team that made the playoffs and got swept by the freaking Giants, Will Clark. And in the 90s when they started getting good again, making the playoffs and still getting swept.
Yeah.
And just kind of tailed through. But then it was just like, hey, I can't give up on these guys. And then I decided, the one thing I was always going to like was the Cubs. So my first tattoo was a Cubs tattoo.
Yep.
Which turned into, wow, this was a big mistake because then they immediately blew the team up and were bad for like 6 years. So, but yeah, there's something to be said. When you root for a team that long and they finally win, it's pretty satisfying.
Yeah.
I'd like the Jazz to figure it out one day, but.
So would I. It'll never happen. I don't know if I'm negative or an a-hole if I say that, but I'm just like, the way that the NBA business side works, unless they can pull a big time free agent,
which they never.
I don't think they can. They can, but it's going to be relationship based and opportunity based, and that particular player has to want to come to Utah. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things that have to line up for that to work.
Sure. From the business side, though, your thoughts here, right? The back in the day, it was like, hey, no one's going to come here. Utah's a small market. There's no real business opportunities. The world shrunk.
True.
That's less of an excuse now, right? Kevin Durant was a star in Oklahoma City just fine. So do you think Ryan Smith can, what are his obstacles with bringing a free agent from a business side?
Their opportunities here to make money. So, like Karl Malone and John Stockton, right? Like Larry H. Miller gave them both car dealerships.
Right.
Like there's different things that they were able to do and they kind of leave their legacy. They also, I don't think John Stockton gave a shiz about being popular or any of that kind of stuff, so he didn't care about that, right?
No, that's your classic guy who did not care about.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Neither did,
negotiated
Jeff
all his
Hornacek.
own contracts.
Yeah. And I, to be honest with you, I don't think Karl Malone cared all that much about being popular either. I think he was more of a win guy. Like he wanted to win. And
Agreed.
I think that he thought that the Jazz at the time were his best option. And they were. If there wasn't Michael Jordan, they probably would have two. At least one. But they don't. And so, but the free agent, I mean, like, I don't know, pick a free agent you think might want to come here.
Oh,
Like it's wild. I think it has to be a foreign guy, to be honest, right? 'Cause
okay.
anyone that's like DeMar DeRozan, right, for a while was a decent free agent that was available, right? And it's like he's either going to go to LA or whoever's going to pay him, right? And it's like there's just not the opportunity here. I mean, if you're a mega superstar like Kevin Durant, like he could. I don't think it makes any difference where he's at on that team, though, right? But then same thing, though, right? Now that he's a free agent, like how are you going to get him to come here? Because he left from OKC to
Golden
Nets?
State.
Oh, yeah, it was Golden State.
He went to Golden State, then to Brooklyn.
So he ring chased for 2 years or 3 years or whatever.
Well, and that's what all these guys do, right? Is they start, they go through their first two contracts, and then they ring chase.
Mm-hmm. They might even ring chase in their second one because these contracts are so fudging big. But I mean, I look at like Giannis, right? It's like, hey, Giannis, if Giannis was on the Utah Jazz, which we could have drafted, and we decided to draft someone else first because we're the worst drafting team in the world.
Yeah, us and like 12 other teams, though. Come on.
Maybe. Anyways, but I just lost my train of thought. So he bounces over to Golden State, right? And then he goes over to the Nets, and it's like that was a horrific move. And I think the Jazz right now have amazing bones. Like amazing bones. We've got good bigs, fast bigs, good shooters. You got Colin Sexton, you know what I mean? Jordan Clarkson's still pretty good, kind of on the tail end of his career. And it's like, if I'm a superstar and I can come here and get a max contract and potentially win a championship, why are you not doing that? And I think it just comes down to they can't make as much money off the court living in Utah.
Okay.
Because I actually think that most of the athletes that like Darren Williams still lives here, right? There's a lot of athletes that end up staying in Utah because they like the family aspect of Utah and like just where their kids are growing up.
It's like good community.
Yeah.
4 full seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's easy to get places. You don't get to LA in an hour and a half. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like Utah's not a bad. We obviously love Utah, but I think it's a very desirable place to live. But I think on the athlete side, a lot of those guys too, like they go back to LA for the summer and they want to be like where the buzzy stuff is and all that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's a good player. I don't think he's a superstar. I don't think we have any superstars on our team right now.
No, I don't think we do either. And I think it's the old thing, right? Like I always, when Gordon Hayward was the superstar.
Oh.
Yeah, right. It's like, hey, you guys are billing him like this. This guy needs to be the third best player for you to win a title. Exactly. Right. So you got to go out and get some guys better than him.
Couldn't agree more.
And so
supposedly the reason why Dwayne Wade bought into the Jazz with Ryan Smith is because they thought they could use him to bring magnate guys in. I'm like,
that doesn't seem to do much at all.
It's also like who too, right? Like next year LeBron will become a free agent. So what?
41-year-old LeBron?
He'd be the best guy on our team if he's on it right now.
We'll see.
Oh, for sure.
That
but
guy's,
still though, but he's not long term.
That guy's one injury away from being retired.
Probably.
I mean, you just get to that age. Yeah. As a guy that is that age and can barely get up off the floor when I fall down playing basketball now.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing too. We're actually in territory of the NBA changing wildly, right? Because when LeBron does retire, it's a different NBA because you got, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, right? A lot of those guys are coming right up behind. Is Chris Paul still playing?
He was last year.
I can't remember if he retired or not, but there's a whole slew of those guys that are gone, right?
There is. And then you get your up-and-comers I don't follow the NBA nearly as closely as I follow other sports anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm a little out of turn, but
I know it on the executive side when we talk to the executives, right? Because they've been sipping milk and honey for 25 years, right? Because they've had LeBron in there, right? And before LeBron, you had Kobe overlapping with Jordan, overlapping, blah, blah, blah. There's no one really overlapping with LeBron, right? Like if LeBron's not on the league, who do you think the star of the league is?
Well, they're trying to make it Anthony Edwards, right?
Oh, are
the
they?
Timberwolves guy.
Yeah, okay.
I just like that's young up and coming player. That Alexander out in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid. Giannis. Jokic.
Luka's the one that they're trying to.
Luka.
The executives think that Luka is going to be the face of the league for the next 10 years once LeBron retires. But still, though,
I don't. For other reasons, I just don't see that as happening.
Well, and here's the thing with Shai. Shai's Canadian, and I think there's a prejudice here on that.
Well, you're going to get the same thing with Luka, right? Because he's Slovenian. I might have screwed that up.
Something like that. Yeah, Slovakia or something.
He's over there somewhere.
He is, but he. I mean, he's a fantastic player, but I don't think he has a personality.
I for whatever reason, I watched more playoffs this year than I had. Mm-hmm. And not for whatever reason, it was HBO Max added a free app that showed playoff games.
Oh, did they? Cool.
And a lot of what I saw with Luka when I watched him was just like, he seems disinterested at times.
Does he? I didn't watch a lot of him.
He does. He seems disinterested. And then, if they need to go on a run or whatever, and he starts hitting shots, he's great. I agree. But he's one of those guys that just seems to dig through, and it's like, hey, for 15 minutes of this game, I'm just going to run up and down the floor, kind of see what's going on.
Could be, yeah. I just, I think the problem with the foreign guys is I don't think that I think they're loved, right? I think people love them, like Giannis, Luka, all those kind of guys, right? But I don't think that because of their accents, I don't think they present to the general public as well as like the past stars. You know what I mean? Like Charles Barkley, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, like all those guys, right? They were easily marketable. And I don't know if Luka's that marketable, right? I mean, who buys a Luka shoe?
People in Dallas?
Do they?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't even know if he's a Nike athlete, to be honest with you.
I don't know that I've ever watched an interview with him.
Yeah, I've seen a couple from the podium, right? Post-game interview type stuff. But I mean, he's smart. He's well-spoken, but he's not that interesting either.
I was going to say your big stars that people still remember, all your big personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Say a couple outrageous things. Say you want to destroy another team.
Yeah.
I mean, Kobe ran his mouth constantly. Mm-hmm. Jordan ran his mouth constantly.
I was going to say, yeah.
LeBron to a point does.
He does. I mean, Charles Barkley ran his mouth like crazy. Karl Malone ran it like crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, and those guys did it really intentional. I actually think they did a good job at it. LeBron's the first guy that was basically friends with everybody, right? That's where they give him the non-killer instinct because he's friends with everybody. And it's like,
well, I thought it was because he doesn't have a killer instinct, but.
Well, I mean, he's hit more shots than Jordan in the last 30 seconds. He has a higher shooting percentage. He has more game winners. I don't know. I don't know what you call clutch. Data doesn't seem to exist when you're a Michael Jordan fan. It just doesn't.
Well, and I like to needle you because I like to throw Kobe in there all the time.
Water off a duck's back when you say Kobe.
Well, I remember an All-Star game where they came out and it was close at the end and Kobe just shut LeBron down.
In an All-Star game?
In an All-Star. I know it was an All-Star game, but they play series the last 5 minutes.
Okay. Was that 190 to like 195?
It was probably something like that. I just think there is a mentality thing that I think LeBron doesn't have, and I don't think it's a fault necessarily.
Yeah.
But I don't think he wants to just murder every other team. I think he wants to win, but I think, Kobe and Jordan wanted to embarrass you while they won.
Probably.
And I think LeBron wants to win, but yeah.
We'll see a 10-part series in about 10 years, and
that
LeBron will produce right. We'll see what he has to say about his own career.
Part of LeBron that this may or may not make sense to you, but a lot of this LeBron stuff too. He has a much more expressive face than Kobe and Jordan did. So when he starts complaining to the refs, it's a different look.
A little more dramatic kind of.
You see Kobe, he's got a little scar, like Jordan, they got a little scowl on their face. They're a little angry. LeBron looks like a cartoon character, hands out, mouth wide open.
Yeah.
he's looked like he was 40 years old since he was 18.
Yes, he has. Yeah.
I mean, except for Greg Oden, everyone else thinks he's the oldest man alive.
I'll be honest, dude. Here's the real deal, and LeBron's guilty of this, right? I honestly blame the league. I mean, this crap was going on in the 80s, right? It is the flopping, right? It's the ability that the players have to influence the refs. I don't think they should. Like, it's one thing for LeBron to complain to a ref. The reason he does is because they change the way they ref. If he wasn't able to influence that, I don't think they'd cry as much as they do.
Yeah, you're probably right, but it's not like it hasn't always been that way. I mean, Jordan drove to the hole, he was getting a whistle.
Well, that's what I mean. I think from
Brian
the 80s,
Russell drives to the hole, and it's like, good luck, buddy.
Oh yeah.
So
well, look at Donovan Mitchell, right?
Right.
I mean, that dude, in my opinion, he got hacked a lot, and they just didn't really give him any calls because he wasn't there yet.
A little bit of star treatment, but the star treatment is a real thing for sure.
100%.
And I agree, that's a problem. And it's, you get that in all sports though. Like, again, baseball is my go-to, right? The Atlanta Braves in the 90s, home plate for their pitchers was 3 inches wider than everyone else's.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Those guys would get calls off the plates because of who they were.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating. And, the Braves went from being a joke of a team forever to whatever. They made the playoffs like, I don't know, it was like 12 or 13 years or something.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it would be that thing. It'd be like John Smoltz could throw a ball 3 inches outside and it was a strike. And then your guy would do it and it was, ball 4. And you're just like,
No, it's not good. I'm actually shocked the NBA doesn't shut down flopping more.
Well, they tried a little bit, right? And they were fining people for it if it was egregious. And
oh, really?
I think so, but then no one.
I think you got to change the
outcome. I still don't think people paid attention.
See, I think you got to come out with the outcome of the game, right? Like, tech them. Give them a tech, review it later.
They were fining them, but fining an NBA player makes when they fine him, to me, it's like, okay, what? Like, they don't care.
Well, let's put this in perspective, right? So most of those fines are what, 15K, 20K?
They're 15K to a charity, right?
Whatever. Yeah.
So, well, no, I'm just saying. So if you're looking from a player's perspective, it's like, okay, I got fined 15K that I have to donate to charity. So you already got tax write-off with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, it's not even that though.
It takes a little of the sting away.
So when the players come here to Utah, they all go out after, right? Most of them, right? Their minimum that they drop is $25,000. They call it 25 bands. I'm in with the lingo.
Sure.
But you know what I mean? So these guys are dropping $25,000 to $50,000 a night. And that's in Utah. So there's no strip clubs here, right? So you can freaking tack another 10 grand to 20 grand on the end of that every single night. And they kind of move it around each other, right? So
I heard it's 40 if James Harden's around, but
ooh, it might be more. Yeah, he loves it. He loves those. But seriously though, right? It's like finding these guys 15 grand in a game, they don't give a rip. Right?
No, it's nothing to them.
It's not, especially a guy like LeBron. Okay, like Steph Curry is going to make like what, $60 million this season. I think LeBron's up there too. But
didn't you just Steph just signed an extension, right?
Yeah, something like
it's like 62 million or something for a year. So yeah, it's finding this guy 15 grand is like asking me if I have a quarter.
Right. And that doesn't even include they're off the. LeBron makes twice as much, I think, off the court as he does on his in-season stuff as the ratio. Right.
Right, because his Nike contract.
Yeah, so you're talking like.
That's everything with LeBron. What else?
Well, $150 million, $160 million. You know what I mean? It's like this is a drop in the bucket. But I'm telling you tech them, and the other team gets the ball into shot. That's changing the outcome of the game, and they're going to have to adjust to that.
No, it's probably a better idea.
Mm-hmm.
Or just count it as even if you count it as a common foul for flopping, it'd be like, hey. You got 4 fouls, and there's in the beginning of the fourth quarter, you're not going to flop the entire quarter.
Yeah, true.
So I like it. You should pitch it to all your buddies that buy your floors.
I'll suggest. They don't care, but I'll suggest. Yeah. The problem is the people I know are not those are different people.
Oh, I know.
I don't even know who really comes up with the rules for the NBA. I don't know if that's a committee or if it's
I'm sure people. It's a committee. That's the commissioner's office has a committee that looks into all that crap, and then.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I think that's how it works in most sports.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of fun though, man, dealing with the NBA. Like they're really cool. The people we deal with, they're cool. They're just kind of normal people. They kind of have like a corporate job, and they're trying to do their best, and they do get really excited though about players in the league and stuff, which is good, right? Because if you're in the league, you should be excited about the product you sell, I guess.
You'd hope so, right?
But for us, like, you know, on the flooring side, it's awkward, right? Because like I'll go to a team and I'm like, oh, hell, I got to like study every freaking player on the team, right? Because if I don't know what's going on, right, they get all offended. Like, well, what do you mean? This guy got traded over here and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm like, guys, I don't ever watch any games, but
I know, you're like, hey, listen, I want you guys to do great. Awesome. But I want them to do great because I want exposure for my business.
Right. Well, it's funny. Like, you know, people will be like, do you go to a lot of games? And I'm like, no. I mean, you know this as well as anybody. No, I never go to games because it's a pain in the ass. It's like 6 hours. I got to drive up there, have dinner, go to the game. The games are what's an NBA
2.5 hours, 2.5, 3 hours.
So, yeah, I was going to say, I was thinking 3.5 to 4, but yeah, 2.5 to 3, whatever it is, you know, then you got to leave, drive home. You know what I mean? And it's like, hell, half those games are during the week. Like, it was funny. I was at a birthday party last night. Did you see me walk out?
I saw you leave. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wearing all white, right? All white, yeah, we all went to this white party, and it's so funny too because it's like, you know, a lot of my business friends are up there, you know, and but we're celebrating our friend's 40th birthday, his wife's 40th birthday, and it's like, and everyone kept on joking. It's like, well, it's Tuesday night, 10 o'clock, let's get home, you know, like we're not going to party all friggin' night because
you're 40
shiz
years
to do.
old.
Well, it's not even that. I just, you know, we had a podcast this morning. I got to get a lot of work done. I got to go to a business event at noon. Like, it's just, I just have things to do today. I don't want to be groggy.
No, I get that. That's something as you get older, you start to realize you're just like,
yeah.
Hey, you know what's not fun? Doing an all-nighter.
Right.
So when you have a kid that wakes up and is just like, hey, I don't feel good, you're like, oh man, I hope this works. So they go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me this. So let's switch gears for the last couple of minutes of this.
Sure.
ADP Lemco.
Okay.
How long have you worked here for now? 6?
Almost 5 years exactly.
Almost 5? Okay, cool.
Yeah. I think you owe me lunch next week.
Perfect. I'll do the following week. I'll be in Pal next week. But I will make good on that.
I'm 5 years next week, actually.
5 years? What day? Do you know?
September 10th. So
okay.
Here's the reason I know that though. I worked for my parents growing up. My dad had a home business. He did work for CR England. Mm-hmm. And so I would just stay home and help him file trucking logs is what he did. Yeah. And so I would do that. He would pay me. I didn't have to have a job through high school. Yeah. So then my first real job was with Pizza Hut. And I got the interview. I did the thing. The guy goes, can you start this day? And I go, absolutely not. I'm going to be out of town. So I started on September 9th of 1999. Mm-hmm. And then I left Pizza Hut in September of 2007. I went back to Pizza Hut like September 9th, 2010.
Oh, okay.
And then I quit again on September 9th, 2019.
Nice.
So I've started a bunch of jobs on September 9th, September 10th. And that's why I know.
Oh, interesting.
So for whatever reason, that's just how it worked out.
Yeah. More of a coincidence than anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. So 5 years at ADP Lemco. Did you have a follow-up?
Good. No. I didn't realize you were restating. Yes. 5 years at ADP Lemco.
Yeah.
How do you like it?
It's been
honest
good.
review.
Honest review. It's been good. It was funny. I was super stressed out about the interview, which was just coming in and talking to you and Skylar, who I've known forever. And I've known you for off and on, 20 years.
Yeah, long time.
So I don't know why I was so anxious.
In fact, didn't we originally offer you a job?
Yeah. So funny enough, right? Like 2009-ish, maybe. You didn't offer me a job. You brought me in. You interviewed me, you talked to me at your old shop, you kind of showed me around a little bit. Yeah. And then for whatever reason, you were just like, no, we're good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so in hindsight, and talking with Skylar, who I don't know if I want to, I was going to say I was going to use people's names, but whatever. I talked to him about it one time and he was just like, yeah, the timing was bad. You were about to have your first kid, the insurance thing. Didn't think it was going to work out.
Honestly, I can't even remember. So,
no, you're fine. Yeah. It was between, I was like getting ready to have Fazoli shut down completely because the guy that owned it was a questionable businessman. And so I was looking for a job and I ended up going back to Pizza Hut. Yeah. Anyway, got fed up with them just for burnout and, working for big corporations is a lot different.
Yeah.
it's funny being a middleman in a big corporation like that is like, you want the people under you to show up and do their jobs, and you want the people that are your bosses to shut up and do their jobs.
Yeah.
And that's really all you want. And it's, you're just trying to navigate everything else in between.
Yeah.
And I got frustrated, and I just called Skylar one day. I was like, hey, anyone, are you hiring at all at your company? And it was right after we had another person that wasn't working out very well.
Yeah.
And he goes, actually, yeah, call me after you have your last kid. Because my wife was 5 months pregnant at the time or something.
Yeah.
So had the kid. He called me. He goes, you still interested in this job? Came in and interviewed with you guys. And obviously it went well enough, and I was ready to try something else. And
yeah,
it's been good. I felt the first year was really different. I was warned in the interview.
Yeah.
I was told you're going to be useless for, 18 months to 2 years. I think I cut that in half.
That's a Skylar thing to say.
But it's not something I knew how to do. Yeah. And, it's fine. I like to learn. I like to try to, do things. My philosophy on work has always just been, my job is to do it to make as much money for you as I can.
Yeah.
Because in turn, that's how I get rewarded, making more money. That's
Correct.
the idea.
Correct. Everyone write that down. You don't get paid more just because you exist. Yeah.
You don't. And you don't get paid more because you think you can do a better job. It's one of the most frustrating conversations I would have. A restaurant like that, you get a lot of minimum wage, a lot of lower paid people. And so you find competent people every once in a while that are, generally in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And you get these people though that you're like, hey, whatever, I can pay $12 an hour. Just so this doesn't sound crazy, this is in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I can pay you $12 an hour, and the guy's like, well, I want to make 15. If you pay me 15, I'll do this, this, and this. And it's like, how about you do that stuff first?
Yeah.
And if you can prove to me you can do it consistently, I'll pay you the money. And they're like, no, you got to pay me first. It's like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Prove you can do the job, then get paid.
Yeah. Which, by the way, honestly, it's like a karma rule. It happens all the time. So if people really understood it, right? The more you get embedded, I just put a video up about this actually. The more you're embedded into the business and make them a bunch of money, right? It's really easy to walk in and get a raise, right? What's really hard to get a raise is when you haven't improved at all and there's no upside.
Well, no, we went through this pretty recently, and my whole thing was, I'm going to put together as much data as I can to present to you why I think I'm worth what I'm worth. Mm-hmm. As opposed to walking in and going, Mark, I've worked here for 4 years.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for me? Because I would expect your response to be, what have you done for me? And if I can't answer that question, I'm way in over my head.
Right, exactly. No, it's this happened to me a few times, and it cracks me up every time because I'm just like, this is such a horrific negotiating tactic from people. But they sit down and they go like, I want you to pay me what you think I'm worth. And I'm like, that phrase is the most misguided thing you ever listen to on Instagram, because you're literally talking to the person that's trying to pay you the least amount that they possibly can to make the most amount of profit for the business. And then you're asking them to pay you what they think you're worth.
So we had this exact discussion. I think I walked into your office.
Oh, did you do this to me?
No. So I walked into you and I said, listen, you want to pay me the least amount possible.
All right.
And I want you to pay me the most amount possible.
Right.
We need to find some common ground. Here's what I think I'm worth.
Yeah.
As opposed to pay me what I'm worth. Because what I'm worth is the least amount you can pay me to not have me quit.
Right.
And still do a good job.
Right. And to be fair, when people listen to this, in my mind, at least, I can only talk to me. What Tom just said is actually semi-accurate, but for me, I really don't look at it that way. I look at it's almost more, is this person happy with getting paid? And then I really do want people happy at the company.
No, and so
it's a big factor
between so small company, very small company, gotten smaller since I started somehow.
People-wise, you mean?
Oh yeah, people-wise. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
people-wise has gotten smaller since I started, amazingly.
Yeah.
It's the difference between the big corporation thing and then it's like, I can come to you and you can have an individual conversation with me and you can see me more as, hey, this is a guy, he's got a family, this is what he does this for me, he helps me out. I want to make him successful and I want him to have a better place when he's outside of work.
Yeah.
A corporation, you're whatever number you put up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's one of the biggest differences between in making this move is, I worked with good people at my other jobs. Like I'm not going to say I didn't. I worked with people that cared about their jobs and I think that cared about me as well. Mm-hmm. But they get to a point where they can only do so much. Mm-hmm. And you just, if we really have an issue and I come to you, you can make a final decision, mm-hmm. or Skylar or whoever. Yeah, yeah. And at a bigger place like a Pizza Hut, it's like, hey, you hit a cap and then they got to answer to some people and then they got to answer to some people. And then eventually somewhere they're answering to shareholders.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah. I mean, you can buy, it's not called Tricon anymore. Yum Brands, I think, is a publicly traded.
Oh, yeah. Yum
right?
Brands.
Yum Brands is publicly traded. Yeah. And then you get even the franchises, though, like they have equity firm or whatever that has an umbrella of 15 different businesses. They eat a restaurant. It's the whole thing, right? And it's so.
Well, yeah, you're just going to hit a metric every single time in corporate world, right? And the reality, I mean, the biggest threat to small business is retraining people, right? Because that's where their biggest cost is. Because if you lose somebody and you have to like hire someone to replace them and then train that person, like in our company, we suck at training. It just is what it is, right?
I did, yeah. I mean,
did you agree? No?
I actually thought I got trained okay, but I think I took a lot of initiative on certain things to just try to learn myself.
Yes. Which what you said makes a lot of sense. Because if you're someone who takes the initiative, you don't need that much. Well,
you still need the training and the understanding. It probably took me, honestly, about 3 years to get comfortable.
Yeah.
To where I could make a decision, not panic about it before I ran it off through either you or Skylar. Just be like, hey, even if they don't necessarily agree 100% with what I did, they're not going to be mad about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And and I think I'm pretty clear on this, but like, it's like, guys, just make decisions. We'll deal with it after, like if you make a horrific decision one time, we'll fix it and correct you and don't do that again. If you do it multiple times, see you later. Right. But
right.
But yeah, I mean, and the thing with, I've never been trained anywhere, right? I've never gone through a training program.
It's starting to make a lot more sense.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? Like I started working here at 8 years old.
Right.
So
you've never done like a corporate training, instructional videos.
The most I've ever done is honestly getting your safety check at a job site where they give you the sticker. You watch a 2-hour video and that's it, right? Mm-hmm. But so then when it comes, what I've realized recently is I'm horrific at training. So I'm training Matt, right? That guy in Tucson, so we can open that office down there. And I was doing a training with him yesterday, and it's so funny because I'm like, Matt, you have to ask me if there's anything you don't understand, ask me, because I understand all of this, and I don't know what you don't understand. So you got to just give me feedback all the time in this thing, right? And a lot of me is just kind of like, you know what, let's just go do it. So literally yesterday I'm training him and he goes, well, when are we going to actually go see some school? So I booked it. We're going to go down in, I think it's like the 13th of October is like the next window I have that's open. And I'm like, I don't know. We're just going to walk around. I'm just going to show you how this is done. And then we'll just pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot. Because I'm such a real life example guy and I hate talking in theories. So like when we sit down, I'm like, well, here's every potential problem that could happen. And here's all the answers to it. It's like, well, you're only going to use 20% of this stuff. So why the hell am I training you on all this?
Right.
It's just like, when something pops up, come and talk to us about it. It's like, hey, this weird thing happened. Oh yeah, do it this way. And and it takes 3 years to. It
took me 3 hours to get comfortable.
Yeah. And you were probably exposed to most things in the first year, maybe 18 months, right? But then to get comfortable, 3 years makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, and it's to the point, right? Like successful training is to the point where it's like, hey, I'm comfortable making this decision.
Yeah.
That means that I've been trained.
Right. I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Enough, at least. As long as it's a decent decision. I don't think I've screwed up too much stuff.
So what's, What's something you would change about ADP? Say you owned the thing tomorrow. What would you change?
Oh, if I owned it, I'd take a lot more vacations.
What about the business would you change?
You know, I off the top of my head, I don't know. I mean, you've got a way you run things, and that's the only way I know, right? Like that's just, this is how it works. Yeah. So I don't know what changes would be beneficial necessarily. Like I wouldn't know where to look to improve. I don't know. I think like what's your thought on like the biggest opportunity for ADP?
Well, our aftermarket stuff is the biggest opportunity, which is why I'm installing Matt. I think there's two of them, right? I think the government contract stuff, like the SAM contract and the state contracts.
Okay.
I'm actively hiring someone right now to just be over that, right? So they know every buying opportunity in every single state that we want to be in, right? Like to me, that's a glaring deficiency that I need to cover right now. And then the other one is like installing local representation in markets that we want to be in. So like, you know, Phoenix, LA, San Francisco, probably Denver, you know, probably Seattle, you know. And if we have like I'll call them a manufacturer's rep. That's not what they're going to be, right?
Sure.
But like, you know, people that are like,
please don't, because we have one already.
Right. Right. You know, I think that's the best growth opportunity for our company for sure, right? It's like in Utah, right? People know us, right? They call us blah, blah, blah. Even in Idaho, really in a lot of places, everywhere we've gone and done work, if the end user ends up meeting us, you know, like they want to work with us again because I think.
Agreed. I've got a couple of companies in Northern California that I get calls that have been recommended for other things now. Yeah. Which is awesome, right? I mean, that's us winning, like big time. Absolutely.
Winning. You know, brand awareness and then brand loyalty, like, especially for a brand called ADP Lemco.
Right.
Like shit. You know?
No, and so from my end though, obviously what I do, I don't deal with what you just talked about really at all. Right. Yeah. Like boil it down, and this not to simplify it too much, but I'm the customer service representative basically. Yeah. It's like, hey, I'm the guy you're going to talk to if you need something. I'm the guy that's going to get you what you need, and I'm the guy that's going to make sure it gets done on time.
Yeah.
And so as far as improvement from there, it's like, you this. It's not going to, it's more of a personalized thing for that level of employee than it is like a company-wide thing. And I speed up engineering drawings.
Right.
Like that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Which isn't under our control. That's why.
Exactly. So I guess if I own the company tomorrow, I'd make a bigger stink about that. Right?
Yeah. Well, you know what though? I mean, we did. I didn't realize that was as bad as it was until Dawn came here. So we were at the dinner. We were talking about that, or was it in a meeting?
You might have been in your meeting. I don't think I talked to him too much about it. I asked him briefly about it because I think we're at like 8 or 10 weeks now.
Yeah, it's bad.
Which is when I started, it was 4, and 4 seemed long.
When we negotiated the deal with them, it was 2 weeks because that's what we were currently doing. And then I tried to get them to hire our engineers away, and they wouldn't do it because, well, they wanted to pay him a pittance, number one, and then they wouldn't let him work remote. And our one guy moved to Seattle because his wife got a really good job up there. And I'm like, you need to hire these guys. They'll work at home. What's the difference in these guys knocking drawings out of home? Pay them per drawing. And they just wouldn't do it. And then those guys, I think we had 2 guys that were potentials, and both of them just got into other careers. And
right. Well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do at that point, right?
So, and now they're like, you know anyone? I'm like, I gave you them 7 years ago. No, I don't know anyone that does engineering for athletic equipment. No, I don't.
But I think that's kind of that's the number one thing I would look into because that's the biggest headache for me personally.
Yeah. And that, I mean, there's some stuff I can tell you off camera, but
well,
but I mean, but I think for ADP Lemco, right? Like I think we probably need to do a couple acquisitions, which, you know, I'm always actively working in that world, but like, which is really frustrating to be honest, right? Because there's nothing to show for it.
I was gonna say, so I've worked here for 5 years. 5 years ago, we probably had a similar conversation about where you thought you would be in 5 years. Yeah. I don't think you're there.
What did I tell you, revenue-wise?
Not revenue-wise, as far as like acquisitions and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think, in fact, I know you're not there.
I
got nothing else to say.
The one we're talking about, the The opportunity's been presented again.
Okay.
So there's a timing to this, right? Because it's owned by a private equity company, right?
Exactly.
And so, I don't know. Honestly, I'm looking at our business and I'm like, should we or shouldn't we? You know, I'll tell you the details about that later.
No, you're good. I was going to say
the problem with that acquisition is I have to buy it. It'll be the biggest acquisition I've ever done. And then it needs another like $8 or $9 million plugged in like the next day.
Gotcha.
To expand. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's worth it. I'm a data Nazi, right? So I will not fall in love with that business, right? I refuse to.
Okay.
So I have to actually look at the data and go, okay, if I plug X amount of money in, how fast do I get it back out? And then for that big of a transaction, I'll have to bring investors in, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, maybe the bank would loan me the money for that, but who knows, right? But but I still got to go, okay, can I service the debt, blah, 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 blah. Can I grow it? Can I not grow it? You know, what waves does this cause if I were to pull the trigger on this throughout their current client base without giving too much away? Anyway, so that's where I'm at with that, where I'm like, oh, do I even need to do this? Or, you know, I mean, $8 or $9 million. If I plug $8 or $9 million into ADP right now and just building up satellite offices in 14 states, I don't even think that would cost me $2 million. So where's the ROI going to come from?
Right.
So, but yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts behind it. I think moving down to Phoenix is going to be a huge boost for us.
We'd hope so, because we don't, from my perspective, I don't think we do a ton of stuff down there, which doesn't make a ton of sense.
Well, we've never been able to identify where the business comes from. And I think it's because it comes from purchasing contracts they're not state contracts, but they're like the buy board.
Oh, so it's more like a Texas thing.
Yeah, more like the buy board. Well, and the buy board extends to like 13 or 14 states too. It's not just Texas.
Okay.
Like it goes all the way to Washington State.
I just know we're big in Texas with it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because we can send it, because that's the thing. We can send a sales guy in. They don't have to price check us. They like the service. They like us. They like the price. They can just give us a contract. Boom, done. And so by identifying those opportunities, I think we will kill it. But the other thing with Phoenix is so big, and the only company that's there is weak, other than us. So it's like, it's just so easy to go down there, I think, and just start grabbing business. And then, because I was looking at LA or Phoenix, and the more I looked at it, I'm like, I'd much rather go to Phoenix off the bat than go to LA. We'll eventually end up with a satellite office in LA, but like,
yeah, no,
it's a pain in the ass to work in California. You know,
it is the second, oddly enough, the second worst place to try to do business, I think.
Where's the first?
Oh, it's Portland, Oregon.
Oh,
Portland, Oregon is nuts.
And they're not even doing that much anymore.
They're not. They did a lot, and they did just the Portland, Oregon decided at some point to take the California DSA model and be like, we're going to put this thing on steroids.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, dude.
Down to, and I've had some crazy things in California. I had a guy follow one of our installers around with a torque wrench.
Oh yeah,
for
I've heard of that.
Every single bolt he put in a wall. Mm-hmm. So we're talking, whatever it was 24 bolts in each wall. Got torqued every one. And I would still rather have to deal with that than go up to Portland.
So I'll tell you my DSA story, because I just think it's so wild. I was a project manager when this all went down, right? My dad's still in the company. And Steve Moyer was actually the guy that went down and installed this job. It was in Rancho Pico, California. I think it's right by Six Flags. So because projects take forever, I think this project was like a 2-year project. So we submit the drawings at the very beginning of this project, right? They accept them. Everything's good. DSA approves them, right? DSA, for anyone listening to this, is basically like an overarching governing body down there that like has more power than anybody. I don't know how to explain it. They're like the EPA. So when we go and install the job, we had switched bolt manufacturers, right? We went from whoever to Alpine Supply. Okay. Now, they didn't have the exact same bolt, right? And so they go, well, we got this one that's stronger and this one's a little bit weaker. So I'll go with the stronger one. I mean, it was I didn't think it was a price difference. I think it was just, which one do you guys want, right? So we picked the stronger bolt, and next thing you know, we get a call from the contractor who says, hey, you guys, you've swapped the bolts out. The drawings call out for the specific bolt. And we go, oh, well, this bolt's stronger. No big deal. Yeah, it was a different supplier. Explain the whole thing. They come back and they go, yeah, the DSA doesn't care. And we go, well, let's write a letter to the DSA, right? So we write a letter, and it's like, I mean, it's like as technical as it gets, you know, bolt 7777
Right.
has this much strength in it. This is the way it's plated. This is the way that it's built. I mean, you know,
It's got this much shear when it's 3.5 inches embedded.
right,
All that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Right.
yawn, right? This one is 13% better, stronger, better, you know, everything about it, right? We got a rejection letter back that said, we don't care. We approved this bolt 2 years ago. Swap them out. And I was like, so we get on the call with them, right? We're trying to like do everything we possibly can. End of the day, my dad and I fly down to Rancho Pico, California. We swap out every bolt.
Did you really swap them?
Oh yeah. DSA was there watching us the entire time.
So
of
similar.
course, if you're going to fly there too, swap
Right.
damn bolts
I
out.
say similar thing with me. That one time I had to provide a 7.5 inch specific hill T-bolt. It's the only thing.
Oh yeah, the wall mount shit.
Right. And I'm like, you know, once these are in the wall, if we get these in the wall before this guy sees it and we hammer the face of this a little, they'll never know what it is. Mm-hmm. I bought the Hilti bolt, just for the record. They were very expensive. I had to have them shipped directly from Hilti to hand to an installer to drive them out to California.
How much were they a bolt? Do you remember?
They were like $11, $11.75 a bolt or something.
Bro, I want you people to listen to that. We were putting in, and then not even different. It's literally a name brand.
It is.
It's
and
the only difference.
There's a marking on the end that they can look at to say this is the right bolt.
Right.
But if a hammer was to hit the front of that thing, you could never read the marking.
It's crazy. It's bananas.
Yeah, I think it was like
There's no
$11.75. I
sense.
think it was $11.75 a bolt, and the ones we normally use are like $4.50.
Yeah.
So it's like, 30% cost on bolts, which is, you know, it is what it is. We did it. This is the same guy that followed around and torqued everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like, the thing wasn't coming off the wall.
No. But that is California. We had one year where the California passed some stupid law and they just taxed every open contract 1%.
Just for fun.
Just for fun. Just boom, 1%. And it's like, you know, there's some, if you really look at that, right, there's a lot of people in subcontracting that are between 7 and 15%. We're higher in our business, right? Because we're niche, right? But like drywall guys, like there's all sorts of guys that don't make that much. So if you're at 7% margin and they take a percent off the top of that, dude, it's like
that's huge.
15% of your profit. And there's no recourse, right? You can't go back to the contractor and give them a change order for the tax increase. It was just bam, take it in the freaking face. And it's like,
that's brutal.
yeah, it's just fudging California, right? I mean, they've got some counties there that like your income tax is like 17 to 18% now, plus your federal, and I'm like, I don't know why people live here. It makes no sense. It's
a nice place to vacation.
It is a very, well, it
Parts
can
of
be
it.
a very nice place to vacation.
Parts of it.
It's wild. I mean, I can shit on California all day. Plus they make me file a tax return there, a personal tax return, which drives me nuts. But
do they really? Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a few states that I have to file a personal income. That's why like half the damn time I'm just in there working on my taxes, right? Which drives me crazy. I'd much rather drive business to the company or any business I'm involved in than to avoid how much tax I have to pay.
This is why I'm fine being a mid-level guy.
Right. Well, don't get me wrong. There's a bazillion benefits to owning a company.
No,
right?
I'm sure.
But like my actual day-to-day sucks. You know, it's like, approve this blew up, blah, 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 blah. Like no one really walks in my office and says, hey, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they don't need to either, right? I'm not even asking for that, right? But like, it's kind of one of these things. I was talking to my men's group. I'm like, it's actually really lonely running a business, right? Because it's not lonely as in you're not around people. It's lonely as in your thoughts in your head, right? Because it's like, what am I doing this right? What am I? Because there's no report card. You know, like I like for example, I just bought all those boxes. We put all those hats in there and little swag. And like, do I think that's going to do well? Yes, right. If it doesn't, it's like a $10,000 to $12,000 hit for no reason, right? And when you're the owner of the company, right? Like it kind of sucks. I go back in my office and I'm like, okay, if we get 5 jobs out of this is absolutely a win. If we get 50 jobs out of this, holy crap, this is the best marketing I've ever done, right? But then if it doesn't work, you're like, dude, I could put that $15,000 into so many different things, right? Like employees, this, blah, 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 whatever, right? And so it's always that argument in the back of your head of what capital allocation is best for the business, you know? Then there's also like, how much cash do you keep in the business? How much do you pull out of it? You know, blah, 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 blah. Like I actually have not pulled cash out of the company for probably 18 months. So, which no one would know or care. Right. But I think a lot of people think, well, he's a business owner. He just like takes all his money all the time. And it's like, no, I have to keep the golden goose alive all the time. Because if this ever goes away, then everyone goes away. And, you know, when you meet people that aren't good in business, they do not allocate capital properly and they run their cash down to nothing and then their business closes. Like that is the sin in business all the time. And I'm probably healthily scared of that every day. Of just not having enough capital. So.
Well, good. Now I'm not worried about my capital one bit.
You shouldn't be, because I hate this term, but I'm wildly conservative how much cash we keep.
No, that's good. I was going to say, I know in talking to some people, specifically accountants of yours.
Oh, good.
You got a lot of praise on how you handle that end of it.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, 10 years ago, I took a lot of advice. I was going to like mentor type people and talking to my CPAs a lot, talking to my attorneys a lot, like, what do you guys think? What do you see with other businesses, and honestly, I'm probably 50% more in cash than I should be. And it costs me a lot of money, but at the same time, it's like we all sleep well in the business. I pay all of our bills. And
this is something I've been trying to explain to my oldest daughter for quite a while now. So she's a senior in high school.
Yeah.
She's deciding what she wants to do with her life, right? She's talked about going into the medical field. I think I talked to you about this. I was trying to get her set up to talk to your friend.
Yeah.
All this stuff. And she's constantly, I'm so stressed out at school. I'm so stressed out. I just told her, I was like, there's a lot to be said for, you want to be a doctor because you think you can make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Is the wrong reason to want to be a doctor.
That's a horrific reason, yeah.
Now, and this is what I've been trying to tell her. When you're trying to figure out what you want to do, because I can make a lot of money doing this is not the best driving force. Because as someone who went from working 6 days, 50 to 60 hours a week, to get to work a 4-day week with a 3-day weekend all the time, I still feel guilty about that with my wife. Stress level is worth a certain amount of money.
100%. Right?
Like, hey, I don't mind that I don't make an extra whatever. And it's something I said when we started, that we had a coworker. I have a coworker, someone that works for you, who was just like, you must be getting paid or whatever, trying to figure out how much I made, basically. And I was like, listen, there's more to this than money. Like, me not having to work Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or after 6 p.m. is worth a significant chunk of money to me.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
I just don't have to, and being able to go home and not having, just knowing I'm not going to get a panicked phone call that says, hey,
it's on fire. Yeah.
or whatever, right? Hey, this piece of equipment broke. This person didn't show up. Someone just told the cook they wanted to take him in the back and do unspeakable things with him. That's a real conversation I had one time, which you don't get the benefit of, unfortunately. So I feel bad for you in that aspect, but.
Well, not to humble brag, but I have had some wild employees that I've dealt with some crazy shit with.
Oh, no, that's...
But it's few and far between.
I was going to say, I don't have enough time to tell you some of the crazy stuff I dealt with.
Can you one-up me?
You know what? I don't know how crazy you got. I got assault charges filed on me by a guy that hit himself in the head and walked out, laid down in the middle of the street in traffic because he said he was going to kill himself.
No.
And he filed assault charges against me for that action.
So no, I've never had anything filed against me, which would suck. That's a pain in the ass.
I talked to a detective right after I started working for you. I think he filed charges like right after I started working for you.
Yeah.
A detective calls me. I interview him for 15 minutes. Never heard another word about it again. I think the statute of limitations has passed.
Yeah.
So I don't think I can be formally charged.
But probable cause and some evidence that you did anything right? Like
the guy had a bit of a record with the West Valley Police Department as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And so I think there was some exaggeration on his part. Yeah. I actually ran into him a couple years later. And he was working at another restaurant that I was, a Pizza Hut actually, that my wife had to go do some stuff, drop some stuff off for another manager, and was talking to him. This guy comes walking out, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is going to be a mess. Because the last time I talked to him, he was, oh, I'm going to have you arrested. I'm going to have you lose your house. You're going to lose your kids. He came out, gives me a big old hug, and he's like, how have you been, Tom? Oh, I miss seeing you around. And he had a traumatic brain injury, to be fair.
Yeah.
But to have him come up and do that, I was just like, oh, what are we doing here? Like last time I saw you, you were ready to blow my life up.
Yeah.
And now you're acting like we've been best friends for the last year. Like, what's going on?
See, that's good though. And the key to that is never see him again.
I have not seen him
Leave
since.
him on that note.
The sad part is I had been friends with him previously to him working with me too, though, pre-injury.
Yeah.
And so I knew him pre-injury, post-injury, completely different guy.
Well, in the next life, you guys can reconcile.
So I have no ill will towards him like anymore. I was a little mad he filed charges on me and stuff, but nothing ever came of it, so whatever.
Hey, I've got an interesting question for you. I just popped in my head. Are you religious?
I'm not.
Are you atheist?
No.
Agnostic?
Sure.
Do you think you live after you die?
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. You're not unlike me, actually.
So I'm a very much would like proof guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not anti-religion in any way. I think it's great. If it works for you, it's great.
Yeah.
Obviously our mutual friend is one of the more religious people I know. And
Oh, Sky?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? Good for him. I think it's good. And I think generally the things, a lot of those lessons and things you learn in churches, or if you take them properly, are good. But I think plenty of people abuse it also.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's kind of like me, right? So I left the Mormon church,
right,
15 years ago or whatever it's been, right? And people will say like, "Oh, were you upset you went on a mission?" I'm like, "Absolutely not."
It's a good
skills I learned on
right?
that mission are invaluable, right? And the relationships, obviously, Skylar, we would never know each other if I didn't go on a mission.
Absolutely,
most likely. The other thing too is people are like, "Well, what about being raised that way?" I'm like, you know, how safe I was and out of trouble I was, and no, I love the way that I grew up, right? But the religion, I just outgrew it. That's what I've told people, right? Like I think most religions are kind of beginner things. Once you learn to be a good person, you don't really need religion.
So growing up, basically, because of Skylar and a couple other friends, you would have assumed I was Mormon, LDS, religious, all that stuff.
I think Skylar's actually told me that.
I did all the stuff. I went to activities with him. I did stuff. I just didn't go to church on Sundays.
Yeah.
And it's just, for me, it's just like, personally, I don't want to go hear about a bunch of other people validating what they believe to what I believe.
Yeah.
Like I'm good and accepted it for myself.
Right. Exactly.
And I don't get into it too much because I don't want to, like, nothing bugs me more than people trying to push a belief system onto someone else.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, be a good person. Don't screw around with other people. And the religious part of it, like, believe what you want to believe. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just, don't knock other people for what they believe.
Yeah. No, exactly.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Well, dude, we got to end. We are way over our 45-minute allotment.
Oh, dang.
So, which is good. So I always ask everyone for the best piece of advice at the end. Yeah.
So, I don't know if I give any good advice, and my kids would say that I give terrible advice.
Well, give us a little bit then.
But I say just back, it's a real simple thing. Just back to something from working, obviously. And it's the one thing I would have asked from a boss of mine. It's the one thing I always tried to do for an employee of mine. And it's very simple. If you say you're going to do something, do it.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
It's not hard. And actually part of that too is be a person that's resolved enough that when you agree to do something, you will do it no matter what.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. Which I appreciate that, by the way. I honestly, to kind of end this, I really do appreciate you coming on the podcast. I really look at this as a journal to my kids, because I probably never really monetize this. I'm not going to be Joe Rogan, blah, blah, blah. I got other stuff in my life. So as my kids look back on this, I always, every interview that I'm in, I always try and picture this 20 years from now, like looking back, like kind of we're wearing funny clothes compared to like the style then, you know what I mean? And but the content that we're actually talking about, I love the fact that, my 14-year-old daughter in 20 years will be, 35, and she'll be hearing a conversation that her dad had with one of his employees / friends. And, I just think it's such a cool experience for them to have, because if we can go back in time and listen to our parents, I think it would be wild.
It would be.
You know?
Are you ever going to go back and listen to these?
Yeah, I listen to some of them. Yeah.
Okay. Like, do you plan on doing like 15, 20 years from now?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I think about going back 15, 20 years from now and listening to myself, and I just think I would be embarrassed beyond belief.
Yes. I always joke around. I'm like, I'm so glad we didn't have social media when I was in high school. Like, incriminate myself left and right.
Are you kidding me, man? That is the saving grace of the fact that I no social media, no cell phones.
Yeah.
No pictures of everything we did.
Right. Or videos of everything we did.
Or video, exactly. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
On the negative side of that, I guess my kids think I'm boring, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thanks for having me on. It was not as bad as I thought.
Good. I like that. I'm glad to hear. So cool. Thanks, Tom.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.